Hello and welcome. I'm Matthias from mamoworld.com and you're in the second class of our series here about creating a template tool with automation blocks for After Effects. In the first part we already created a user interface for our tool and now we want to make sure it actually does something. So here we've got our little animation, our basic template project, and we want to update the text here and colors and also this icon file here based on what the user has chosen in the user interface. So let me first get rid of the alert message here that we just used last time to check how to use the values that the user actually entered, and now we want to use them to do something meaningful. So first of all, we want to use them to replace the text here. So I go to this text layer and it has a source text property. And at the very beginning, some warning. If you replace source texts, also the name of the layer changes if you didn't rename it manually before. So I highly recommend to do this because otherwise what happens is when you replace the source text, the layer name changes and this can mess up all kinds of things like messing up expressions and things like that. So I want to go here and say text main, and this is now different to what you have here. Yeah. Now, okay, we want to change this source text. So the source text is a property of a layer. Yeah. So therefore, here in our block categories, we go not to layer but to layer properties, because what you want to change is the source text, which is a property. And here you've got the get and set attribute, and one of the attributes is the value. And this is exactly what we want to change. We want to change the value of this property, of this text property. Yeah. For a text property, a value is a text. For a position property, it's the coordinates and so on. Yeah. So the value can be all kinds of things. Very powerful block. Here we want to change the value of the text property. So we make sure we select this text property and click the refresh icon here. And now it pastes in the entire path, so to speak, to this property. So it says in the main composition, in the layer text main, under the text properties, under here this text category, we want to change the text document, which is the source text. So this picker here essentially solves the entire problem for you to describe which layer which property exactly you want to change. And here you need to put the value. Yeah, you could just select this here again and click here refresh, and now it would paste the data from this particular value. Text values look pretty complicated. They are such a JSON structure here which says the text itself, but there's also all these rules, like do you want to apply a fill, do you want to apply a stroke, which font do you want to use. You could provide here such a complex value if you want to have full control over the font and everything, but if you just want to replace the text itself, you could also write here something like foo, for example. And if we now run this script and click OK, you can see it has been replaced by foo. So you can put here complex JSON structures to have full control, but we just want to replace it by a normal text. And the normal text is actually what the user entered here as our main text, right? So we can go to our variables and choose not the color main text, but actually the text main. This is what we need, what the user entered here in this part of our user interface. And now it will replace this text. Now we can duplicate this block real quick and say we want to have the text second in the text property of our second text. Where is it? Here's our text second. I select the source text of this one, click here to make sure that the second text will be applied to the value of the second text. And now let's do a quick test again. We say here new title and also a second line, and if we run this, you can see it updates here to new title, also a second line. By the way, if you wonder how this template is made such that this box resizes instantly when you change here the content, this is done with our other tool, pins and boxes for After Effects. So if you want to learn more about these kinds of automatic layouts, check out pins and boxes. But now let's continue here and see how we can also change the color. Now I said that texts can have these complex JSON values here, so you could create such a complex JSON value and in that manipulate the color value, but I find it's much easier if we just solve the color with an effect. So we go to Effects and Presets and choose the Fill effect and drop it on top of our main text. Now the main text is colored with this fill of this property here. So we go to the fill effect, to the color. This is the property we want to set. Yeah? And so we can simply duplicate the set attribute block again. And this time we want to replace the value of this color property. And we set it to the color of the main text. So colors can be specified in different formats. These hash values, these hex codes, is one format that Automation Blocks understands, so we don't need to change those at all and can give them directly here to the attribute. If you want to know more, you can click here on the help, and in the block reference you find a category AE color, which describes you how you can specify colors exactly. So you can go with these hash values. You can provide a list of 3 numbers in the range 0 to 1, so where 0 is black and 1 is white, or you can use certain color names like the names of label colors in After Effects. Okay, so let's do another quick test here. If we run the script now and choose here the blue color, for example, you can see that my title is colored blue now too. The last thing we want to do now is to replace this icon file. What this icon file contains after we've picked a file is the full file path. And maybe let's first initialize this because we forgot to do this last time. So we go again to our variables and say set, and this time we want to set the icon file. You could enter now here a file path manually, but it's more convenient to just go to the files category and use a file picker here. So I click here. And now this is a My Template project, and here we've got the Automation Blocks icon chosen by default. Now this is the file that has been chosen by default, and after the dialog is closed, the variable icon file will instead contain the file that the user has picked, if he changed anything. Otherwise it will stay at this value, of course. So now we want to set something, but this time we don't want to set an attribute of a property. Yeah, but what we want to change is the file that we use in this layer. So you could get the idea to check for a layer and set the attribute of a layer. Yeah, like this. And for layers, you can, for example, set their source item. Yeah, so if you set the source item, let me make some more space here. The source item is the project items that you wanted to use. So you could import a new file, then set the source item of the layer to this new file. But we can actually do it easier because we don't need to change the source item, which is this logo.ai here currently, but we can simply change this item itself. So we can right click on this item and say replace footage file. Yeah? And the analogous thing to doing logo file here, right click, replace footage file with Automation Blocks is not changing the layer, but changing this project item. Yeah, so I throw this in the garbage and go to the category project items. And as comps, layers, and layer properties, also project items have attributes that you can get and set. And we want to set the attribute file. Now we want to change the file that belongs to this particular project item. So we need to tell which project item we want to change. So I make sure the item is selected and click here my refresh icon, which then again inserts for me the path that describes which item we are talking about. Here it says in the bin footage, I want to access the item logo.ai. And now I want to say with which file should it be replaced? Well, with the one that the user has chosen. Yeah, so with whatever is in the variable icon file. So I go to my variables, go to icon file, and drag it here. Now let's run the script and note that currently the default mamoworld logo is here. And now we can go here to open file and choose instead, let's go for the Automation Blocks icon, for example. And if we now close, you can see that it has been replaced by the Automation Blocks icon, which is in this case a much larger file. So it would be cool if in the next step we could also come up with some ideas of how to scale this down. And that's exactly what we're going to do in the next class. So in the next class, we're going to take a look at some advanced logic, how to analyze the things that the user entered and use some logic to do more advanced changes of the project based on that. Again, I'm Matthias from mamoworld.com. I hope you enjoy this tutorial series, and I'm looking forward to see you in the next class.